Blake, thanks so much for jumping on with us, spending a few minutes here with the Three Tech Pod. I'm excited to talk Auburn football, all things down on the plains. But
Yeah.
first, just for audience members who haven't heard of the Uptempo podcast, let us know who you are, what you do, and where the folks can find you.
Man, I'm Blake Lane from Mobile, Alabama, and I started this thing up in 2021, December of 2021. The Auburn Tigers were getting ready to take on the Houston Cougars in the Birmingham Bowl. And previously, about 2 weeks before that, man, I made a TikTok uh, about Alabama and Georgia in the SEC championship game. And it was basically throwing shade at Kirby Smart and how they couldn't win the big one. And it come back to bite me, but it went viral, and it was a fun ride, man. The University of Alabama contacted me on Twitter and said, "Hey, can we have the rights to your video?" And I said, "Absolutely." So Clint Lamb, I always shout him out. He started DMing me and everything and was like, "Hey, just want to know if I can share your video and put it on all the social media outlets and everything." I said, "Absolutely, man." So more and more people were like, "Hey, you should start a podcast and go out and reach out to people and guest." And that's what I did, man. I pulled in 247 rivals on
Mhm.
three guests and just talked recruiting, not only in the SEC, but I went out to the Pac-12. I went to Oregon, USC. I went to Nebraska in the Big Ten. That was a big time program when I was coming up, and Ohio State, and just all over the country, man. Notre Dame, that was one that really, when I got that one, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, just a prominent program just through the years. And so now we've made the switch over to YouTube at the Uptempo Pod, and we are just uploading content daily, man, over there. And I'm with Belly Up Sports Media,
Mhm.
and so they're a growing company, and they're getting up off the ground, and they're just a lot of NFL talk. I'm one of the few that talks college football on there. I love SEC football, Mitch. I love it, man. I've grew up in it, and it is just it's the best conference in the world, man. So you can also find us on Apple and Spotify. Go give us a 5-star review and leave us a written review and tell us what you like about the show, man.
Love it, dude. Yeah, I've gotten a chance to listen to some of your stuff. You also just recently branched out to YouTube as well, so go
Hmm.
find them on YouTube. Give them a follow. We're just a little bit ahead of you guys as far as building a YouTube base. And I tell you what, it's a lot of fun when subscribers start rolling in. People find the
Yeah.
content, they love it, they comment on it. So anyway, love to see you guys on that journey as well. We're going to talk a lot about Auburn football, but off the top, the news item that has just been at the center of everything has been the Pac-12 media rights,
Hmm.
the circus that's going on out west. And listen, personally, I respect a number of teams that are in that conference, especially on the
Hmm.
football side. But gosh, dude, it feels like George Klavkov is scrambling to pull this conference out of the flames right now. And everywhere he turns, it feels like a door slams in his face. Most
Yep.
recently, we had kind of conflicting reports saying that Ion was stepping in, that they might make an offer, that Apple TV had not made an offer for the Pac
Hmm.
12 media rights. Fox, CBS, Turner, they're all out. Amazon doesn't even seem to be in on the Pac 12 media rights. So,
Yep.
with everything that's going on, what is your take on all this? Because to me, as a guy who lives across from SMU, I'm a little hesitant about the ponies trying to go join the conference.
Hmm.
I think it might be a sinking ship.
It is 100% a sinking ship, Mitch. It is beyond that point, in my opinion. You lost your two biggest money makers. You lost USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, man, and that was the straw that stirred it, man. LA lights, camera, action, and here's the biggest thing to me with the Pac-12. Now you're looking at Oregon, Utah, and Washington, right? Uh, if you lose if you lose Oregon and Washington, I mean, where do you go from there? It's like, I was listening to you guys earlier, and you were talking about San Diego State and locking that down, but man, the Pac-12, it's the play for me. It's the product on the field, and it's also with the East Coast and the Central Time Zone of what time you play, and I don't think that you can save the Pac-12. I just don't. There's SMU going to the Pac-12. I just why not stay where you're at? Because
Mhm.
the conference you're in right now, I mean, it's almost Pac-12 equivalent. Let's be honest. I mean, it might be a little jump up in if you go to the Pac-12, but I mean, man, it's rough. Ion, what is? I don't even know what that is. I mean, I was listening to you guys today and talk about it's right there with TV land. I mean,
Yeah,
you're at the bottom of the barrel, man.
yeah.
And Mitch, one thing I'll say about it is I was talking about time of play. Okay, so I remember last year it was Oregon and UCLA, and when your biggest game of the week is on at the same time as the SEC game of the week,
Mhm,
you're in trouble, man. You're
mhm.
in trouble, and it's not fair and well for the Pac-12, man. It's just it's beyond a sinking ship. They have hit the iceberg. The boat is full, man, and you're you're headed to the bottom of the Atlantic.
When a guy like Brett McMurphy says, and I believe he said this on the Solid Verbal either yesterday or today, I don't remember which, but when he says that networks are openly admitting, hey, we've got enough content, we're not
Hmm.
interested in adding more, two things stick out to me. One, they view your conference just as content, right? They
Yep.
lump that together with other programming that might run on those channels, right? The SEC is not thought of as content. Big Ten football
Hmm.
is not thought of as just content, right? It's something
Yep.
special. It's something unique. So to have these major networks tell a conference, hey, yeah, we're full up on content. We're not really interested, and then to have to pivot to a station like Ion that it's not like they're a massive network. They've got
Yep.
61, I believe, local stations and they don't run sports content. They run Blue
Hmm.
Bloods and FBI and other crime dramas. It just seems like such a strange fit as opposed to trying to make something work with a streaming platform. And, I don't know what your thoughts are on if, we're going streaming only or if cable will always have a role. But right now, you don't hear the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12
Yep.
worried about, oh, are we going to be able to stream our games? That's taken care of.
Yep. Mitch, you want to know why it's taken care of? Because it's the style of play, man. And you look at the Pac-12, and when you can't put a team into the college football playoff, there's a problem.
Mm,
And let's go back to last year. I mean, you're one of your powerhouse teams in that conference, Utah, goes to Gainesville the very first week of the season, and they get beat. And Cam Rising throws a pick at the goal line, and you were a top 10 team in the country when that happens,
mhm.
and you lose to, let's be honest, Florida isn't what Florida used to be.
Mhm.
Uh, G5 Billy is trying to, get things going down there in Gainesville, but
He's trying.
you lose you lose to Florida, man, and so you got Oregon out there that tries to get in, but they always lose that game that they shouldn't.
Mhm.
And then when they do get in, they get to Ohio State, they get blown off the football way back in the Mariota days, and so it's just, man, you got to put a team in the playoffs. And when was the last time the Pac-12 made the playoffs? Washington, when they played Alabama in the semifinal.
Yeah.
So you got to put a team in there, man. And when you can't, it's just it's the conference has no hope, man. And then you lose USC and UCLA, and
Right.
it's just you lose them to the Big Ten. Like that is, I mean, that is insane. I just think there's no hope for the conference. I think it's just a mute point, man.
Let me ask you this: with USC and UCLA, well, we presume UCLA. We'll see what the Board of Regents
Yeah.
decides. But with USC specifically, getting ready to leave
Hmm.
for the Big Ten in 2024, this will be their last year in the Pac-12. Does USC making the playoff this season do anything for the Pac-12, or do you think that will be seen as almost a credit to the newest Big Ten member?
The newest Big Ten member, 100%. People are going to rant and rave and say, hey, now you got another powerhouse joining the Big Ten. It's not just going to be Ohio State versus Michigan every year, occasionally Michigan State. And so I truly feel like everybody is looking at USC. If they do make it this year, they're just going to say, hey, now we're bringing a power over to compete with those guys in the Big Ten.
Ouch. Yeah, it's a tough
Mm-hmm.
spot to be in if you're a fan of a team out west. Well, I can hear the Auburn fans specifically just screaming into their headsets right now. Maybe they're on their
Yeah.
morning commute. Hey, I tuned into this to hear about Auburn football, not the Pac-12. So let's transition over there. Talk your area of expertise down on the plains. First of all, last year didn't go the way that Auburn hoped in the SEC,
Mm-hmm.
although they didn't finish last. That's what happened to my team. Uh, and you finish 5-7. You do go out and get Hugh Freeze, which overall, whether you like him or not, I'm not here to discuss
Mm-hmm.
that, but overall, it seems like there's an era of optimism for Auburn football that the ceiling has certainly been extended above what Brian Harsin was ever going to reach. The floor has
Mm-hmm.
been raised as well. Tell me a little bit about what the fan base is thinking right now as we sit here at the end of February. Season's a long way off, but
Yep.
still, I mean, message boards never quit.
Never quit. And Mitch, I'll be straight up with you, man. I am one person who, look, I was in on the Lane train leaving Oxford and coming to Auburn and everything, man. I was there, but we also did an episode of our top three candidates for Auburn. And I think you had to make a home run hire at Auburn. And I put on there Lane Kiffin, Hugh Freeze, Deion Sanders. Okay. And Hugh Freeze coming in at number two eventually gets the job. And there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of blowback, man. It started circulating right around the Iron Bowl and that big game. And I just said, like, hey, give the man a chance. You might not like what he did in his past, but look, let's be honest. That was 8 years ago. Okay.
Sure.
People deserve a second chance. He went to Liberty. We saw what he did there. And now you bring in a coach that won at Ole Miss. He beat Nick Saban twice. He won with a guy like Bo Wallace and Chad Kelly, and you saw the wide receivers that he put into the NFL, like an AJ Brown or Laquan Treadwell. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. DK Metcalf, man,
Mhm.
just physical specimens. And in my opinion, that is what Auburn has lacked over the past couple of years. I know at offensive line, Auburn has struggled, but man, the receiver position, Auburn has just been so poorly out there outside, man, and no playmakers, no deep threats. And that now you have a coach that can produce those things in your offense.
Mhm.
And we all know, Mitch, Auburn, the offense was absolutely dreadful, man. It was just pathetic. I can tell you this, man. I went to the Penn State game and I left in the third quarter. And I can't, man, I looked at my wife and I said, hey, we have to go because I can't sit here and watch this any longer.
Yeah.
And I said, I will not be back at Jordan Hare Stadium this year. Now things changed through the middle of the year. Cadillac Williams and every story that just come about with him, man. The
Mhm.
the legend that he is and the
Mhm.
things that he did for our program. I remember I made a tweet, man, and I said, uh, we're going to look back at this 2022 season, and we're going to remember that Cadillac Williams saved Auburn football. So what 24 did as a running backs coach to get an interim head coaching job and becoming the first African American to be put in that position at Auburn was just, it was big for not only Auburn fans but big for the state, Mitch.
Mhm.
And just to see a legend like that, man, he just means so much to us. And to see Coach Hugh Freeze keep him and retain him and Zach Etheridge and the recruiting that they do, man, it just means a lot. And that's why I'm a big Hugh Freeze fan, man. I really am. And I look, I tell you like this, Mitch. If his wife can forgive what he done and his children, and and the way he talks about the Lord and Savior and the man upstairs, then why not give him a second chance? So
Yeah.
I'm all on board for Coach Freeze, man.
Yeah, he certainly has done a lot of good upon arriving at Auburn, and there's always going to be the
Hmm.
Twitter trolls. We're certainly not one of them, so I think we're excited to see how that goes. Let's talk two things here with the temperature. You mentioned recruiting that has
Hmm.
already seen a bump with Hugh Freeze at the helm. You've got a quarterback in Walker White who you coax out of
Yep.
the state of Arkansas. His
Yep.
recruitment was kind of hot and heavy and over in a hurry. Where we heard rumors that he's Arkansas bound, and then all of a sudden we were hearing he's Texas A&M bound, back to
Hmm.
Arkansas, and then all of a sudden, bam, he's an Auburn Tiger. So tell me a little bit about kind of some of the excitement that's around that recruitment going on right now. And then you mentioned wide receiver. Is there another area that you just need to see, whether it's through the portal or through recruitment, be hammered immediately?
Mitch, he. I'll start with the job that he did his first recruiting cycle. Man, Auburn was 62nd in recruiting. All right, he comes in, he brings you to a top 16 ranking. Man, I know some sites had Auburn at like 19th
Hmm.
and 18th, but man, just to put you inside of the top 20 in your first cycle, and the difference between the last guy and I don't even want to say his name. Um, the difference between the last guy and Coach Hugh Freeze is the last guy did not want to recruit. Man, there was
Yeah.
stories that come out and said that he would not visit high schools in the state of Alabama. And Mitch, I can tell you, man, high school football in the state of Alabama, it produces absolute studs, man.
Hmm.
There's some big time high school programs here, and for him to not even go to a Central Phoenix city that has an Auburn connection, man, like I mean, it's blasphemy that you have a Patrick Nix who played at Auburn. His son played at Auburn, and you won't even visit the high school, man. And you have a Hoover High School
Hmm.
and a Spain Park and a Thompson, and you won't go get kids. And even down here where I'm at in Mobile, Alabama, man, you have a Spanish Fort, you have a Fairhope across the bay, you have Theodore High School here. Blunt that produced a Kadarius Toney that went to Florida, a Super Bowl champion now, man. Like you weren't making your rounds to attack those high school kids. And that is why Auburn was in the position that they were in. And I can tell you this, man, when Hugh Freeze got off the plane, he didn't sleep for 3 weeks. He attacked every high school in the state of Alabama. That was his main goal, was for him and his staff to make their way to every high school football program in the state. And the job that he has done is just absolutely phenomenal, man. And you lock up your quarterback, all right, for this 24 class. You lock up just all these guys that are now recruiting for you for the
Yeah.
future. And like it speaks volumes to just the difference and the fan base and the excitement. And I just I'm at a loss for words for what we just went through, man, with that guy and just the lack of effort. And now you have Hugh Freeze who said, "Hey, I'm going to attack the transfer portal because there is two needs, Mitch. Look, you lost two absolute studs off the edge on your defensive line, man. So you attack the D line. We all know where football games are won, man. I can pull up a great game between Auburn and Texas A&M in the 2021 season. All right, Auburn just couldn't compete in the trenches,
Hmm.
and that's the reason in the second half, A&M they eventually walked the dog on us. All right, because Auburn tired out and they stopped. They just couldn't compete, man. A&M just started pushing and pushing and pushing, and it was a wrap before you knew it. So you look at the offensive line, man. He goes and he gets, I think it's 8 offensive linemen out of the transfer portal, and he's looking for a ninth, I believe. And so you know we see how bad Auburn's offensive line was, man, and that's why Robbie Ashford and I know a lot of people hate on him, the Twitter trolls and for the under 50% completion percentage and everything. But man, turn on the tape and look at that offensive line from last year.
Hmm.
My guy had zero time to throw the football, Mitch. So it was just it's refreshing to see a coach actually put in the effort and attack the needs and just put in the effort, man.
It's a scary proposition trying to win games in the SEC without
Yeah.
controlling the line of scrimmage. And yeah, there's no doubt that Freeze recognizes that, knows that from his time at Ole Miss, and
Hmm.
yeah, jumped right back on the horse with little to no downtime. Right, so
Yep.
I think y'all are very well positioned there. Uh, Looking over at the schedule for 2023, you've got a very,
Yep.
very manageable non-conference schedule, right? Cal
Hmm.
is the only Power Five program that you play at the start, and
Yep.
then it's going to be a tough middle stretch. You play Texas A&M, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, depending on where you think that the Bulldogs will be before finishing with
Hmm.
Vandy, Arkansas, New Mexico State, and of course the Iron Bowl. We'll get to the Iron Bowl here at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But realistically, when you look through that schedule, you go from 5-7. You have a bunch of issues you expect to be fixed in, or at least have serious progress made. What is a
Yeah.
realistic expectation for a record come the end of 2023?
So man, like I know everybody they throw that 8-4 expectation every year. Year one, you want to go 8-4. As an Auburn fan, a diehard Auburn fan, man, I really look at this schedule and say, hey, if you can get 7 wins and go 7-5 year one, I would be happy with that. You throw on a bowl win and get to 8-5 year one, and then you have a full recruiting cycle. Man, I would be ecstatic for this football program. But let's look at it. All right. Your first three, man, you got to win those. All right. You go to College Station. That's a tough ask to win that game. And then you got Georgia and at LSU, man. What a stretch that is. I really think you got to squeak one of those out. I think you got to pull one of those out. And honestly, I know Auburn fans are really itching to get at Georgia, man. I'm not sure how I'm not sure it's going to happen, but it's just been years and years of domination in that rivalry. Georgia has just spanked us. And then you get Ole Miss at home. I really like that. You get Mississippi State at home.
Mhm.
Those are two games that you could very, very much win. And then you go to Vanderbilt, man. You got to win that one. I know Vandy had a great year for them last year, and I think you really got to win that one. And then at Arkansas, I think that's a game that you could possibly
Yeah.
win. You've dominated that program over the years, and then last year they come into your house and tear you apart, and that's eventually what got Brian Harsin fired. And then you close it out with New Mexico State and Alabama. Man, look, you give me 7, 8 wins there. I am extremely ecstatic in year one under Hugh Freeze. And I'll tell you the icing on the cake, though, man. You beat either Georgia or Alabama, Mitch, and you go 8-4
Mhm.
with a win over one of those teams, and then you add on a ninth win in a bowl game. Mitch, I'm telling you, things will be cooking in Auburn, Alabama, man. The expectations for year two will be through the roof, man.
Yeah, you talk about a springboard for success. You get an upset or two this year. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at especially that back half, the Mississippi schools, Vandy, Arkansas. If Auburn can go on a run there,
Hmm.
boy, I think it's going to be just so much fun to watch the Tigers play football. That Arkansas program, they're headed in the wrong direction. That
Hmm.
first true, I guess you go to Cal at Berkeley, but that game at the end of September against Texas A&M, there's going to be so much pressure on the Aggies to win that game. It's a
Hmm.
matchup that historically the Aggies have just struggled with since coming into the SEC. I mean, we've had some
Yep.
really poor performances against Auburn, and I
Yep.
think if you lose that game in College Station, that could potentially be the beginning of the end for Jimbo. And so I think there's a ton of pressure on the Aggies. That's a game that,
Yep.
if the ball bounces the wrong way, I can easily see Auburn getting out of College Station with a win. And I think this season, like you said, there's so much potential. If you lose to Georgia, if you lose to LSU, like, okay, that's
Yeah.
where you're really
Yep.
expecting to win those. But like you said, if you get one, if you take one of
Yep.
those games away, it could be a whole lot of fun. Speaking of taking those games away, you need a good quarterback to do it in the SEC.
Mhm.
Who is kind of projected to be QB1 for Auburn, and maybe who would you like to see be QB1? And then ultimately, what do you think has to happen in order for Auburn to win 7, 8, 9 games this year?
Man, I'll be straight up with you, Mitch. I know some Auburn fans might not agree here, but I think Robbie Ashford has to stay healthy.
Mhm.
I think he has to be quarterback one. I'm not on the TJ Finley train. I've just look. I've seen too much of it. I don't think he's the guy. I watched him at LSU. His parents got involved with the program last year. Went on to Locked on Auburn, and just it was just a mess, man. And so um, I don't I don't know, man. It was a really weird timing last year. He doesn't travel with the team or whatever. It was just super weird, that whole situation. And then you got Holden Garner, man. You got Holden Garner sitting there, and it was really unfortunate that Auburn was supposed to entertain Devin O'Leary
Mhm.
and Grayson McCall, and things didn't pan out for the classes that Auburn offered and everything, and so that fell through. And look, Holden's a young guy. He got in a couple times last year. The Missouri game comes to mind, man, and you just put him behind a terrible offensive line. We know the arm talent he's got, but can he step in there amongst TJ and Robbie and really compete? I'm not sure, man, but I really like Robbie Ashford. He showed me enough last year. Uh, Look, and let's be honest too. The offense last year was not fit for Robbie Ashford. All right, it wasn't, man. Just go back and look at it. You had the guy, taking 7-step drops, and the route tree was absolutely ridiculous. Just turn on the film,
Mhm.
man. I mean, he was set up for failure. Now the mechanics aren't the best. The throw in motion. He's a baseball player. Let Hugh Freeze work with this guy. We know what he can do with his legs. We've seen it. The guy, I had Joel Gunderson on from Oregon, man, and he does some writing up there for SCO Ducks and everything on three up there.
Mhm.
And he gave a Trey Lance comp, and he said, "Man, I'm telling you, Robbie, he can sling it, and he is the most athletic guy on the field." And we saw glimpses of that last year. I think Auburn needs to cut down on the turnovers with Robbie. Hold on to the football, man. Tuck that thing away, and let's roll with Robbie Ashford, in my opinion, Mitch. I like what I saw last year. I think there's some promising things, but get the man some help, man. It can't just be, look, it was Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter
Yeah.
last year. Let's be honest. Get the man some help. Hopefully, we have a much improved offensive line so he can stay healthy and upright.
What what is the strength of Robbie Ashford that you see him growing into if he was to be QB1? Is it more of a kind of quick hitter, running the spread, or do you see him eventually throwing the ball downfield with great effect? What is his strength?
Man, it's I think it's the quick hitters. I think it's getting the ball out in space, get it to your playmakers, and then eventually take the shot downfield. Man, look, we saw a throw that he made in the Iron Bowl to open up the scoring in that game, and if he can give us balls like that, Mitch, you know, the guy's got talent. All right. But you got to put playmakers around him, man. You got to get athletes out in space. And Auburn has those guys. We just got to utilize them. And last year, our offense, look, man, the guy come from Boise and he was supposed to be an offensive guru. It was a mess, man. It was a mess. But I like Robbie to work with Hugh Freeze. Get him some quick hitters, man, and get his confidence up. That is one thing with me. Robbie Ashford had zero confidence last year. You could tell it on the sideline. The guy's a winner, man. He's a competitor. You could tell how much he wanted to win. If you're an Auburn fan, go back and look at the Mississippi State game, and you will see him and how much the guy wants to win. All right. I think he is your leader. And going through spring ball that just opened up yesterday for the Auburn Tigers, man, I think this is your guy with head coach Hugh Freeze.
The guy that's in charge of coaching him up very personally, obviously Philip Montgomery, who comes over
Yeah.
from Tulsa. Listen, Tulsa had some really fun teams under Philip,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some very explosive teams. They occasionally would put a defensive unit on the field that would really impress you, but they're mostly known for that ability to score. And Montgomery is not only going to be the OC, he's the quarterback's coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Roberts comes over as the defensive coordinator. How do you like that staff that Freeze has built?
I absolutely love it, Mitch. Montgomery, man, Philip is look. He's gonna put points up, and that is the one thing that I preach to Auburn fans, man. Is that is the one thing that you've had problems with the Gus Malzahn era, the end of it. People watch film, man. They catch on to what you do. You can't keep running the same middle school offense, and you got to switch things up, man. And so at the end of that era, and then the Brian Harsin era, we got to put up points. And I know Philip, man, he likes that quarterback that can sling it around the yard. So that is the one thing that kind of bothers me with Robbie being QB1. That is the one concern I have because I know Philip likes to throw that thing down the field a time or two. But man, Ron Roberts, I love this hire. We have seen the Baylor defense. They will absolutely put a hat on you. They would blitz. The secondary blitzes is what I love, and I think that's been an Auburn strong point the past couple of years. Just look at the DBs in the league, man. You turn on the Roberts film and you can see the cornerback blitz, the safety blitz is coming, man. I think that is gonna serve Auburn just perfectly, man. And I really like the talent that Auburn has in that secondary to produce for Ron Roberts this year. So I absolutely love what he's doing, man. I know a lot of people were kind of, a little critical of it, but, people want to throw shade at Ron Roberts a little bit. And there was, the Baylor defense and all this stuff, man. Look, uh, people were giving Hugh heat because he said, I got guys that want to come here. And then well, you hired Ron Roberts. Look, man, this guy knows defense. He's been in the game. All right. He's been in the game for over 30 years. And I'm all for that. So I'm excited. I think every Auburn fan should be excited, Mitch.
I like that you point out the secondary blitzes because that's what Georgia did almost better than anyone in the country this year, right? I mean, they
Yep.
weren't really getting a ton of pressure and sacks from their edge rushers. Nolan Smith was hurt for a good
Yep.
chunk of the year. Jalen Carter, while he was disruptive up the middle, it's not like he had 10 sacks or anything like that. But time and time
Mm-hmm.
again, you turn on that Bulldog tape, it's the safeties, it's the corners coming off the edge from the
Mm-hmm.
backside that really made life hell for opposing quarterbacks. So yeah, I think with the
Yep.
size, the speed that Auburn will have to flex out there, gosh, it could be a really fun combo bringing Roberts in.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get you out of here on this. And we were talking before we hit record over the weekend and trying to kind of figure out something fun to end on. And I thought to myself,
Yeah.
what I'd love to hear what makes the Iron Bowl so special. And you hit on several key items, several key
Mhm.
characteristics that I just think one are awesome to hear you talk about, but two just kind of
Yeah.
make college football what it is. And it's so beautiful. So, as an Auburn fan,
Mhm.
what do you most look forward to in the Iron Bowl every year?
Mitch, it's the respect, man, and it is the respect of the guys on the field, and what I mean by that is you see the Michigan State thing happen, and walking through the same tunnel, and the assault goes down, and you see Ohio State and Michigan meeting. Before each of them run out and they're jaw jacking, and it's just you don't see that in the Iron Bowl. Okay, you don't see guys before the game just at the 50 and digging their cleats into the logo and all that. You see a respect factor, man, because a lot of these kids, they play each other in high school. And even though the two fan bases absolutely hate each other, Mitch, Paul Feinbaum said it on the 30 for 30. that it is like the Israelites and the Palestinians living amongst each other for 365 days of the year. But one of those days, all right, they don't argue amongst each other because they actually have to play each other. So, uh, man, this rivalry is like no other. It is the greatest rivalry in college football, and Michigan and Ohio State might argue that, but I'll be honest with you, you're not even from the same state. Okay, this rivalry is the most electric thing that I've ever been a part of, Mitch. The endings that we've had, you can go back and look at 2017, man. Jalen Hurts and Jarrett Stidham comes in and knocks off Alabama. They still make the playoff and end up winning the national championship. The trash talk in that rivalry, man. Auburn was like, well, hey, we're the state champs, and Alabama was like, well, hey, we're the
Yeah.
national champs, you know. And then you got 2019, Tua goes down. Mac Jones puts up one of the greatest performances, but Mac also threw two pick sixes, Mitch, and one was a 100-yard return from Zacoby McClain, man, who was one of the greatest Auburn linebackers to ever suit up. And then you look obviously at the kick six, and you can go back to the 80s and the 90s and just all those great performances, and then the hate over Alabama not wanting to play a home and home. Alabama wanted to keep it in Birmingham, which is a huge Alabama city. I mean, it is dominated. It's only 45 minutes away from Tuscaloosa, Mitch. So, Alabama wanted to keep this thing in their backyard. Pat Dye, rest his soul, man. The things that he did for Auburn football can't be matched, and we really appreciate what he did with getting this thing to Jordan-Hare Stadium and just the magical moments, man. That is why it's the greatest rivalry in college football. Another thing I'll say, man, is if you've never been to an Iron Bowl, all right, if you've never been to an Iron Bowl, you have to go at least
Mm.
one time. Okay, you look at 2010, Cameron Jarrell Newton. He went to Blinn Junior College from Florida. He transfers to Auburn. They're in the middle of the season. There was the big scandal and everything about did Mississippi State offer a pay for play, or did he go to Auburn for
Mhm.
money? And then he walks into Bryant Denny, and as he trots onto the field, they have the son of a preacher man playing because Cecil Newton was a pastor in Atlanta, Georgia, and then they have Take the Money and Run playing, and Auburn falls down 24 to nothing, Mitch, and then all of a sudden they come back and they win 28-27, and he does the throwback to Philip Lutzenkirchen, and rest his soul, man. Just one of the best to ever do it in an Auburn uniform. So just so many magical moments, and Harvey Updike poisoning the Tumors
Sure.
Oaks just added a little. It added a little more spice to it, and so just so many things I could pinpoint, man, and just say this rivalry is the greatest thing you will witness in college
Yeah,
football.
I certainly hope to make it out as an item on my college football bucket list. I mean, the
Yeah,
scenes are just truly iconic, right? I mean, you can almost kind of throw a
yeah,
pin on the timeline, and bam, there's a great moment from the Iron Bowl history.
hmm
What makes that game so special, considering the fact that it doesn't matter who's up, who's down that year.
hmm
There is always a chance that whether it's Auburn that's 2-9 or Alabama that's 2-9, that the upset can be pulled at home or on the road. I feel like almost
yep,
like at a rate that you don't see in other rivalry games. Am I making that up?
yep. No, no, absolutely not, man. Mitch, let me tell you something. I've lived in this state. I'll be 32 years old next month, man. And I've lived in Mobile, Alabama my entire life. As an Auburn fan, just going into a gas station, man. You open up the door and you see an Alabama fan walking in, and you just say, "Hey, look, I'm not holding the door open for him." All right? And then you let the door go and say "War
Mhm.
damn Eagle," and he might hit you back with a Roll damn Tide, and it's just there's a story that come inside the Auburn locker room, and a player said, "Hey, look." for all of you guys who aren't from this state, who have never lived here, who have never played any type of football in this state. You don't know what you're about to get yourself into. And if you aren't from here today, you are from here. You were from Auburn, Alabama. All right. And you have to put everything on the line in these 60 minutes to take down the Alabama Crimson Tide. And it goes both ways, man. And it's just, that's what it means to people in this state. And I can tell you, man, from living here my entire life, that you hear it right now, man. Alabama's the number 2 team in college
Sure.
basketball. All right. And Auburn has been the better program recently over the past couple of years, and we are hearing it. All right. Even on the basketball side of things, we're hearing, hey, man, like you guys, you're sitting here at 19-10, and we're the number 2 team in the country. And you know, hey, we're the better program. And we're hold on, you know. It's just the rivalry is heated, man, and it can go either way. You can throw rankings, records, you just never know. And another thing that makes it so great, man, is you have look at the coaches that have coached in the game. You got Bear Bryant, you got Nick Saban, you got Pat Dye, you got Tommy Tuberville, who's iconic for the thumb, and hey, you know, we beat them 6 in a row, and you have those long win streaks in the rivalry, but you also have in 2013 the winner goes to the national championship. There was a streak right there during those years in the heyday of the Alabama rivalry where the winner of the Iron Bowl went on to play in the SEC championship game and then went on to play in the national championship game. So, you know, it's a rivalry that can't be matched, man. And look, I'll tell you this, it's not just in football either. People get it twisted, man. You go to a Coleman Coliseum, they play tomorrow night in Coleman. All right. I can tell you with everything that's been going on circling around that Alabama basketball program, the Auburn fans will travel, Mitch, and it will be nasty. Now, Alabama might win by 30, but it will be nasty between those two fan bases.
If you guys could help my basketball team out a little bit after a bad road loss this weekend, you know, that would be appreciated. We'd love a winner take all this Saturday for sure. Well, Blake, I appreciate it, man. Jumping on with this, talking Auburn football.
Yeah.
Tell the people where they can find you one more time, and we'll get you out of here.
Man, you can find us over on YouTube. We just transitioned over there at the Uptempo Pod. Me and I'm the host and my co-host Dustin Smith. We're just uploading content daily, man, and you can find us over at Apple Podcast and Spotify. If you could, just subscribe to the show, rate the show, give a written review, and tell us what you love about it. And Mitch, I've had a blast being on here, man. It has been fun. I can't wait to get you on and talk a little Texas A&M,
right.
man.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And we will definitely have you and hopefully Dustin back on as well as the season approaches. There's just so much to talk about. Southeastern Conference, teams specifically, news. We're expanding as a conference next year. I mean, this truly does feel like the epicenter of college football on any given day. And we're really excited to keep chatting that with you. For everyone who's tuned in, we appreciate it. If you would also like the video, if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a rating on Apple or Spotify as well. That helps us quite a bit. Until next time, so long, everybody.
Gracious, how about